Homeless boy saved the biker's daughter from a kidnapper. What Hell's Angels did next shocked the entire town. Liam hadn't eaten in 2 days. His stomach felt hollow, not just with hunger, but with the kind of deep, aching loneliness that came from being forgotten by the world. He sat behind the abandoned steel yard, his makeshift home, knees tucked to his chest, trying to keep warm beneath an old tarp rustling in the cold wind. 14 years old. No parents. No guardian. Just the streets and the silence that followed him everywhere. But everything would change in the next few hours. In a way no one in town would ever forget. Because a kid no one cared about was about to save a life everyone cared about. Before we continue, where are you watching from right now? Drop your country or city in the comments below. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, because this story is only just beginning. Liam stretched his legs and stood, brushing dust from his worn jeans. The steel yard gates clanged behind him as he stepped out into the alley, hoping today he'd find enough scrap to trade for a sandwich. The world was waking up. The rumble of trucks, birds waking in the trees, workers heading to their shifts. Normal life. The kind Liam watched from the outside. He shoved his hands deeper into his pockets and walked, head down, when he froze. A sound, at first too soft to understand, then clearer. A muffled scream. High-pitched. Panicked. A child's scream. Liam's heart kicked hard. He whipped his head around, trying to find the direction. Another scream, louder. He ran. He turned the corner just in time to see a man shoving a young girl into the back of a dark van. She was maybe 9 years old, blonde hair messy, small backpack hanging from one shoulder. "No, let me go," she cried, voice cracking with fear. The man grabbed her wrists and forced her deeper inside. Liam didn't think. He just yelled, "Hey, stop." The man's head snapped toward him. Rough, broad shoulders, hard eyes, a face that didn't look like someone afraid of a teenager. He growled, "Get out of here, kid. This isn't your business." But Liam took a step forward anyway, because he recognized something in that girl's scream. Something he remembered from his earliest memory. Being scared, being alone, being taken. He couldn't let another kid go through that. The man pulled out a switchblade, a glint of metal, sharp, serious. Liam's breath caught, but he didn't run. He picked up the nearest thing he could grab, a rusted steel pipe from the ground. His hands shook. His heart hammered, but he raised the pipe anyway. The man barked a laugh. "You really want to die over someone you don't even know?" Liam's voice cracked. "She's just a kid." For a moment, the alley went silent. Wind, distant traffic, the girl's quiet sobs. Then the man moved first. He lunged. Liam ducked, but he wasn't fast enough. The blade sliced across his forearm, opening a burning line of pain. He shouted and swung the pipe. Clang. The metal struck the kidnapper's hand. The knife clattered to the ground. The man roared, grabbing Liam by his shirt and slamming him back into the wall. Liam saw stars. The world blurred. But he didn't drop the pipe. He swung again, just enough to knock the man backward a step. Long enough for the girl to scream, "Help!" Long enough for Liam to yell, "Run!" She jumped out of the van and sprinted toward the street. The kidnapper spun. Liam tackled him from behind, buying her 2 more seconds. 2 seconds that changed everything. Tires squealed at the end of the alley. Someone had heard the screams. Liam prayed it was police. But the van door slammed, the engine roared to life, and the kidnapper jumped into the driver's seat. Liam pounded the side of the van with his fist. "Get back here." The van peeled out of the alley and sped away. Gone, leaving Liam gasping, shaking, arm bleeding. But alive. He turned. The girl stood at the mouth of the alley, trembling, tears streaming down her face. Her backpack hung open. Her lip bled. She stared at Liam like he wasn't real. Like heroes weren't supposed to be barefoot kids living behind abandoned factories. She whispered, "You saved me." Liam forced a weak smile. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. "My dad is going to come. He's going to be so mad." At the time, Liam thought she meant mad that she had gotten grabbed. But she didn't. She meant something else entirely. Because this scared little girl, was Addie Thompson, daughter of a man who wasn't just respected in town. He was the president of the local Hells Angels chapter. And 20 minutes later, Liam was about to meet 70 bikers who would ride into town looking for blood. Not his. The man who tried to take their little girl. Addie didn't move at first. She just stood there in the sunlight at the end of the alley, breathing in short, broken gasps, her small hands shaking violently. Liam walked toward her, clutching his bleeding arm, trying not to show how dizzy he suddenly felt. "It's okay," he murmured. "It's over. You're safe." But Addie was staring past him, toward the spot where the van had disappeared, eyes wide and unblinking, like she still expected the man to come running back. Liam hesitated. He wanted to comfort her, wanted to crouch down and speak to her like the adults never did to him. But he didn't know how. He barely knew how to comfort himself. But he did know one thing. She shouldn't be alone. Her voice was tiny when she spoke. I need to call my dad." Liam nodded, but then he remembered. The last time he tried to borrow someone's phone, they threatened to call the cops on him. Addie looked at him again. "Can you please walk with me? Just to the street." Liam hesitated only a second. "Yeah, let's go." They walked toward the sidewalk, slowly, quietly. Liam kept glancing around, every shadow suddenly suspicious. His arm stung, but adrenaline was still pumping hard enough that he barely felt it. Addie reached into her backpack and pulled out a small phone. Her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped it. She dialed. It rang once, twice. Then, a voice answered. "Addie." She broke. "Daddy." Her voice cracked so hard Liam felt it in his chest. "There was a man. He tried to take me. And. Liam heard the voice on the other end change instantly. Calm wasn't the right word. Cold. Sharp. Controlled. "Where are you?" Addie turned and stared at the street sign across from her. B. Baker Street, behind the old steel yard. There was no hesitation. "I'm coming. Don't move. Do not move." The call ended in less than 12 seconds. Addie lowered the phone and wiped her nose on her sleeve. "He's going to be here soon." Liam nodded awkwardly. "That's good." But she shook her head. "You don't understand. My dad." She swallowed. "My dad is a biker." Liam blinked. "So?" Her throat bobbed as she whispered. "The Hells Angels." Liam's stomach dropped. Even a homeless kid knew what that meant. He had seen the patches. He had heard the stories. He had heard the warnings. Don't cross them. Don't look at them. Don't get in their way. Suddenly, the idea of a man with a knife didn't seem like the only danger he should have been worried about. Because when a Hell's Angel found out his daughter had been attacked, someone would pay. And Liam had no idea if they would believe his side of the story. A low rumble rolled through the town. Not one motorcycle. Not two. Dozens. Engines thick and thunderous, the sound bouncing between buildings like a gathering storm. Addie's back straightened immediately. "He's here." Liam took a step back, heart pounding. He wasn't afraid. He had faced a knife a few minutes ago, but this was different. This was political, hierarchical, tribal. This was family. Something Liam had never belonged to. Engines roared louder. Then they appeared. A line of bikes turned the corner, chrome gleaming in the sunlight, exhaust cracking through the air. Leather vests, patches, tattoos, sunglasses, heavy boots hitting pavement one after another. They didn't park neatly. They surrounded the street. Liam stood frozen. People stopped on sidewalks. Drivers slowed their cars. Curtains moved behind windows. The town felt the shift. The fear, the respect, the gravity. At the front of the pack was a tall, broad man with a shaved head, gray beard, and shoulders wide enough to block the sun. His vest carried the patch. President. He got off his bike before it even fully stopped. Addie. She ran into his arms. He knelt, massive but gentle, and held her like she was something made of thin glass. He looked her over, scanning every inch for injuries. You hurt. She shook her head, though her eyes were still glossy. I'm okay. I'm okay now. He exhaled once, slow, dangerous. Then his eyes snapped up. To Liam. The bikers behind him turned too. At least 20 sets of eyes locked onto a barefoot kid bleeding from the arm. Liam squared his shoulders, refusing to step back. He didn't want to look afraid, even if every instinct inside him screamed to run. Addie tugged her father's vest. Dad. He focused again. He saved me. Silence. Not disbelief. Not thanks. Just calculation. The president stood up slowly and walked toward Liam, boots striking pavement with weight and intention. Liam stood tall, not because he wasn't scared, but because Addie was watching. The man stopped inches away. He was close enough that Liam could smell leather, motor oil, and road. Name. Liam. No last name. Just like the man expected. The president's eyes swept over the bleeding cut. Who did it? Addie answered before Liam could. He had a knife. He shoved me into a van. Liam stopped him. The president looked back down at Liam. You went at a grown man, with a blade, and you didn't run? Liam didn't break eye contact. She was alone. It wasn't bravado. It was just truth. The president stared at him for a long, quiet moment. Then, he nodded once. A biker behind him exploded with anger. We find the guy and tear him. The president lifted one finger. The biker went silent instantly. This man didn't need to yell. He commanded. He looked at Addie again. Did you see his face? She nodded. Tattoos on his hands, black jacket, short hair, and she shivered. He smelled like cigarettes and beer. A biker behind them cracked his knuckles. That's Morrow, someone muttered. The president didn't react outwardly, but something behind his eyes darkened. Get everyone in formation. We hunt. Bikes roared to life again. People shut their windows. Birds went quiet. Addie saw her father turning toward his bike and grabbed his vest again. Wait. You can't leave him here. The president looked back at Liam. The kid stood alone, bleeding, clothes torn, hunger visible on his face, but still standing tall. Addie's voice broke. He helped me. We have to help him too. The president stared at her, then at Liam. Then he made a decision that would change everything. He extended a massive hand and said, Come with us. Not a request. A statement. Liam blinked. Me? The president nodded. You took care of my kid. Now we take care of you. Behind him, the engine snarled. The hunt was about to begin, and Liam was getting on the back of a Hell's Angel bike. Liam had never been this close to a motorcycle in his life, let alone surrounded by dozens of them, engines rumbling like thunder under a dark sky. He stood frozen, unsure if he was even allowed to touch one. He didn't belong in this world. He didn't belong anywhere. Addie's father, the chapter president, jerked his head toward his bike. Up. Liam swallowed. I've never been on one. It's like riding a horse, a big tattooed biker behind him grunted. Except if you fall off, you'll need a shovel, not a doctor. A ripple of rough laughter moved through the group. Not mean, just biker humor. Addie stepped forward, her voice soft. It's okay. You'll be with my dad. Liam looked at her, then at the bike. It was massive, chrome, black, powerful. A machine that looked like it only obeyed people who could wrestle storms. Liam nodded and climbed on behind the president, gripping the seat like his life depended on it. It kind of did. The president looked back, just once. You hold on to the hand grips. Not me. If I go down, you don't want to follow. Liam nodded again, pulse hammering so hard he could hear it in his ears. Engines revved. Addie and a few members would stay at the clubhouse for safety. Everyone else, they were going hunting. They rolled out. Not fast at first, but with a precision that said this wasn't the first time a group of men had ridden out looking for blood. People pulled their cars to the curb just at the sight of them. Not because they were scared, but because they knew. When the Hells Angels moved like this, something was wrong, and someone was about to pay. The president called out over the roar. Forward block. 3 bikers moved into the lead, hand signals tight, practiced. They scanned intersections, alleys, storefronts, eyes sharp as hawks. Another group peeled off to check the industrial district. Another to sweep the truck routes. The president spoke low, just loud enough for Liam to hear. He won't dump the van in town. Men like him look for roads with no witnesses. Liam held on, knuckles white. How do you know it wasn't someone random? The president's lip curled slightly. Because if it were random, he'd panic. He wouldn't threaten. He wouldn't talk. Men who know the streets try to think. Liam nodded slowly. He didn't know the streets in that way. His survival was more. Day to day, minute to minute. Fight for scraps. Run when needed. A different education entirely. They reached the main drag highway, and the group split again. The president called to a rider next to him. Check the way stations and the canyon turnouts. The biker peeled off instantly. No hesitation. No questions. Just obedience. Liam realized something chilling. They were tracking this guy like a wolf pack. And Liam was in the middle of it. At the town's edge, the president eased the bike to a stop beside a closed diner. The rest of the formation slowed behind them, asphalt humming with idle engines. He looked over his shoulder at Liam. Tell me everything again. Slowly, Liam took a breath. He recounted every detail. The van, the scream, the knife, the smell of stale cigarettes and beer, the tattoo on the man's hand. The president's eyes narrowed at that part. What kind of tattoo? Some kind of spider? Big. Black. Here. Liam pointed to the back of his own left hand. A biker with a scar down his cheek spat on the pavement. That's Morrow. No question. Liam swallowed. Who is he? The biker cracked his knuckles. A rat who thinks being 6 foot and sloppy makes him dangerous. Another biker added. He ain't in the club. He's got beef with a few chapters. Likes to push his weight around. The president looked at Liam again. Why'd you step in? Liam blinked. Wasn't it obvious? She was alone. A few bikers went silent, not because they didn't understand, but because they did. More than most. One murmured under his breath. Kid's got a bigger heart than most grown men. A radio chirped in the president's vest. He lifted it to his mouth. A biker's voice crackled through. I got something. Abandoned service access road north of Miller's Pass. Broken glass on the shoulder. The president didn't answer with words. He just revved his engine, and the pack did the same. They moved. Hard. Fast. But clean. No stunt riding, no weaving. These were men on a mission, not a parade. Wind tore at Liam's face, and the faster they went, the more he felt something unfamiliar. Trust. Not of the road, not of the machine, but of the man in front of him. A stranger, but the first person in a long time who seemed to listen. They reached the service road. A cracked stretch of forgotten pavement leading into dusty foothills. Skid marks. Shattered headlight glass. Tire treads leading off the main road. A biker kneeled, pressed his palm into the dirt, then nodded. Fresh. Couple hours, tops. The president swung off his bike. Liam followed shakily. You sure this is him? Someone asked. The president pointed at the ground. 3 footprints. Big. Distinct. One more besides them. Smaller, lighter. Addie. The president's jaw flexed. He turned to his men. Fan out. Look for anything. He might have dumped the van and moved on foot. The bikers scattered like trained scouts. Liam looked around. Heat shimmered off asphalt. The wind carried the distant hum of semis miles away. Somewhere out here, that man was still free, and Liam felt anger start to burn in his stomach. Not fear, not dread, anger, because the girl he saved, she wasn't like him. She had someone coming, someone who would fight, someone who cared. The president walked back to Liam. You did good. Liam blinked. No one had told him that in years. Maybe ever. The president added. Out here, most people look the other way. You didn't. Liam looked down at his torn shoes. I just didn't want her to get taken. The president stared at him for a moment. Then he placed one heavy hand on Liam's shoulder. You're riding with us until this is finished. Liam swallowed. But I'm just a nobody. The president shook his head once. Not today. From the trail beyond the brush, a shout rang out. We got the van. Engines roared to life. The hunt had turned into a chase, and Liam was right in the middle of it. The bikes tore down the cracked access road in a tight formation, engines thundering off the canyon walls. Dust whipped into the air behind them, turning the late afternoon sunlight into a haze of grit and gold. Liam held on as the president leaned the bike into the turn, tires skidding slightly on loose gravel. The other angels followed with practiced precision. No wobbling, no panic, no fear. These weren't men who rode bikes. They commanded them. Up ahead, 3 riders had parked in a V formation around something half hidden in dead brush. The van. Beat up. Black paint scratched. Passenger door hanging open. Liam felt his heartbeat jump into his throat. They'd found it. The president killed the engine and motioned for everyone to spread out. Within seconds, the angels were searching the perimeter, some checking tracks, others circling the van, one looking for prints in the dust. The president approached the vehicle, and Liam followed slowly, still shaky from the adrenaline. A biker with hatchet stitched on his vest crouched near the cracked headlight. He bailed in a hurry. Glass is still popping from heat. Another spoke from inside the van. No sign of the kid. She wasn't in here long. Liam felt a wave of relief hit him. At least Addie hadn't been kept in that place. The president checked the rear. Any plates? Hatchet shook his head. Scratched off. Amateur job. Another biker snorted. That's Morrow. Dumb as a bag of wrenches. The president turned his head. Don't underestimate stupid. Stupid is dangerous. He stood straight and shouted to the group. He went on foot. Fan out and track. The angels moved. Fast. Silent. Efficient. No yelling. No chaos. No disorganization. These men had searched for people before. Liam stood by the open van door, staring inside. A roll of duct tape. A greasy rag. A crushed beer can. Every item made his stomach tighten. He imagined Addie alone in that van. Scared. Helpless. A flash of memory stabbed through him. A younger version of himself crying in the back of a car he never wanted to remember again. He swallowed hard. The president noticed. You holding up? Liam nodded, though his voice wasn't steady. I'm fine. The president didn't push. Men who lived in the dark could recognize another who'd been there too. A shout cut through the air. Footprints. Every biker converged toward the voice. Liam hurried with the president, heart hammering. A sandy patch of ground in the shade of a scrub tree showed deep, heavy prints heading toward the rock ridge. But beside them, something else. Smaller prints. Smaller strides. Someone had been running. Liam's eyes narrowed. He wasn't alone. The president scanned the tracks. Then, he took someone to hide them. Maybe a witness. Maybe leverage. Liam's chest tightened. Another kid. Could be. This wasn't just about Addie anymore. The man might already be hunting another victim. The president grabbed his radio. All units, priority change. This is now a double life situation. We track hard. We track fast. Static. Then biker voices confirmed from every direction. The Hells Angels were now in full pursuit. A biker with a shaved head knelt and touched the prince. Deep heel strike. Heavy. He's carrying weight. Maybe 40 pounds. The president's jaw clenched. He's got a child. Liam felt the world tilt. His pulse spiked. He remembered how terrified Addie had looked, and she'd had help. Whoever this new kid was. They were alone, dragged up a ridge by a predator. No one coming. Except now? A biker army. They began climbing the rocky hillside, boots hammering on sandstone, gravel crunching under heavy soles. Liam scrambled after them, trying to keep up, rocks sliding under his worn sneakers. Hatchet called out, "Slow your breathing, kid. Short steps. Uphill kill your lungs if you rush." Liam adjusted, focusing on steady rhythm. The president watched him from the corner of his eye. "You've climbed worse, haven't you?" Liam didn't answer. He didn't need to. A man who lives without walls learns to move through the world differently. They reached a ridge overlook. Below, on the other side, lay an old drainage tunnel, concrete, mossy, and dark. Fresh footprints led straight into the opening. Hatchet clenched his teeth. That's a choke point. Only one way in or out. Perfect for an abductor. Dangerous for anyone following. The president signaled silently. 2 bikers flanked left. 2 flanked right. 2 circled around the ridge. Liam watched in awe. They were boxing the man in. He'd never seen organization like it. Not even from police. The president turned to Liam. "You stay behind me." "But I can," he. "Behind me." The president repeated, voice low but firm. "I'm not losing another kid today." Another. The word lingered in the air. He wasn't just reacting with biker anger. He was reacting with memory, pain, history. Liam wondered what story sat behind that word, but now wasn't the time to ask. The bikers moved toward the tunnel entrance, slowed their steps, and drew weapons. Not guns. Not yet. Crowbars, knives, steel batons. Things meant to break bones without echoing a gunshot through a canyon. Inside the tunnel was pitch black. Silent. Too silent. The president stepped in first, voice deep and echoing. "Morrow." Silence. "Morrow, listen carefully. You come out on your feet. A beat. Or we drag you out in pieces. Makes no difference to us." Still nothing. Liam stood behind him, trying to slow his breathing, eyes straining to adjust to the dark. Then, a sound. Soft. Muffled. A kid's cry. The president reacted instantly. "Go." The angels flooded the tunnel, boots hammering, lights flashing on, blades ready. Liam ran with them, heart in his throat, adrenaline surging. In the darkness ahead, a shadow moved. A man's voice barked, "Back off or I'll." The sentence cut short, followed by a child's scream, and the entire tunnel ignited with violence. Because the Hells Angels weren't here to negotiate. They were here to end this. The sound inside the tunnel was chaos, footsteps, shouts, the metallic scrape of steel against concrete. Flashlights swung wildly, beams slicing the darkness. Liam pressed close behind the president, heart pounding like a war drum. The air was damp and cold, smelling of mold and rust, the walls dripping with condensation. Ahead, the president's voice bellowed. "He's at the back. Move." The angels surged forward. The kidnapper cornered. A biker's flashlight beam hit the scene first. A scruffy, dirty man, Morrow, had a small boy clamped in one filthy arm, the other holding a rusted switchblade to the child's throat. The kid couldn't have been older than 7. Tear-streaked face, hands bound, legs shaking. Morrow screamed, voice cracking. "Nobody move, or he's dead." The angels froze in formation, not out of fear, but calculation. These men had seen hostage situations before. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They let the president speak. He took one slow step forward. "Moro, you hurt that kid." His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "And I won't leave enough of you to fill a sandwich bag." Moro laughed, wild and desperate. "You think I'm scared of you biker freaks? The cops wouldn't even come after me." "They didn't," the president replied. "We did." One of the bikers muttered under his breath. "He thinks that's an upgrade." Another snorted softly. "This won't take long." Liam's flashback hits hard. As Liam stared at the scene, his chest tightened. The dim tunnel. A kid frozen in fear. A grown man with a weapon. It wasn't just this moment. He'd seen this before. He'd lived something too close to it to ever forget. His vision blurred for a second. He heard a different voice. A different scream. A different night. He blinked hard and forced the memory away. This wasn't about him now. This was about the child in front of them. He clenched his fists. He would not watch another kid get taken. Not again. Moro begins to crack. The president tilted his head slightly, reading the situation like a chess move. "You think we rushed down here without a plan?" Moro's breathing quickened. "You stay back." The president raised his hand. "Hatchet." From the darkness behind Moro came a quiet reply. "Already here." Moro froze. He suddenly realized. The Hell's Angels weren't just in front of him. They'd flanked the tunnel. He was surrounded. Hatchet's gravelly voice came from inches behind Moro's ear. "You move that knife 1 inch, and I break every finger holding it." Moro jerked, twisting in blind panic. And that was the last mistake he made. The angels strike. The president shouted, "Take him." Hatchet's arm shot forward. One clean, brutal movement. And the knife flicked out of Moro's hand, clattering across the concrete. At the same instant, a second biker grabbed the child and rolled him to safety. And then, the tunnel exploded with fists. No wasted motion. No hesitation. No mercy. Moro was hit high, low, side, ribs, stomach, jaw. Each strike a lesson in pain and precision. He dropped to his knees. The president stepped forward and delivered one last body shot that folded the man like wet cardboard. He collapsed face first on the concrete, unconscious. Silence rushed in after the violence. Then, a child's sob. The boy rescued. The president immediately knelt by the kid, checking him for injuries. The boy was shaking, but conscious. "You're safe," the president said softly, voice calmer than Liam had ever heard it. "No one's going to hurt you again." Another biker cut the ropes binding the boy's wrists. The kid whispered, voice trembling. He was going to take me. He said no one would look." A biker with a scarred cheek answered gently. He was wrong. Liam stepped forward, eyes soft. "What's your name?" The boy sniffed. "Carson." Carson. 5 letters that shouldn't have been fighting for survival in a tunnel. Liam swallowed the knot in his throat. "You did good, Carson. Real good." Carson looked up at him, confused. You're with them?" Liam half smiled. "I guess so." The boy stared. "You don't look scary like them." One biker laughed. "Oh, trust me, he will." The tension broke for a moment. Even the president's lips twitched in the faintest smile. Moro wakes, and weeks of rage boil over. Behind them, Moro groaned, starting to regain consciousness. The president's expression turned stone cold. He stood, walked over, and stared down at the man responsible for 2 terrified children. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Every angel in that tunnel knew. This wasn't over. Moro wasn't leaving on his feet. Not after what he'd done. The president cracked his knuckles slowly. Moro's eyes fluttered open, and the last thing he saw was the shadow of the man he should never have crossed. Moro's eyes snapped open just in time to realize he'd made the worst bet of his life. He tried to scramble backward along the slick tunnel floor, palms slipping on grime and dirt, but he didn't make it more than a foot before a heavy biker boot came down. pressing just enough to stop him. Not crushing, just pinning, just making it clear. He was done. The president crouched, forearm resting on his thigh, staring at the man like he was something scraped off a tire. "You kidnapped children," he said quietly. No shouting, no barking, just controlled hatred. "You think that makes you a tough guy?" Morrow's voice trembled, wild and cracking. It wasn't like that. Before he could finish, Hatchet leaned in from the side and growled. "It's exactly like that." Another biker added, "Kidnapping anyone is bad. But kids? You're lucky we aren't burying you in this tunnel." Morrow swallowed hard. He believed them, because these weren't guys who made empty threats. These were men who followed through. Every time. Liam holds his ground. Liam stood a few feet back, breathing hard. He wasn't part of the violence, but he could feel the weight of it. The history, the fury, the righteousness. And a part of him, a dark, honest part, understood it. Because deep down, if someone had done this to him as a kid, or to someone he cared about, he wasn't sure he'd be the forgiving type either. He watched the president straighten. "What do we do with him?" one of the bikers asked. Some answered immediately. "Break his legs. Drop him in the river. Leave him here chained to the wall until someone finds him." All were said with absolute seriousness. Because this wasn't a gang. This was a code. And someone had broken it. Liam steps forward. Then Liam did something even he didn't expect. He stepped between Morrow and the president. Not aggressively. Just enough to be seen. The bikers tensed. The president's eyes narrowed a little. "What are you doing, Liam?" Liam swallowed. His voice shook, but he spoke anyway. "He deserves to pay. I get that. But..." He nodded toward Carson, who was being comforted by two angels across the tunnel. "That kid needs more than revenge right now." A slow silence fell over the tunnel. One biker muttered, "He's not wrong." Another grunted, "Kid's got a point." The president held Liam's gaze, face unreadable. Then, he exhaled slowly. "Fine." He looked down at Morrow. "But you're going to jail. And you better pray someone gets to you before we do." Morrow whimpered. One biker leaned down and whispered into Morrow's ear. "They won't. They'll walk out." Two angels grabbed Morrow by the arms and dragged him through the tunnel like a sack of trash. Carson watched, wide-eyed and silent. Liam crouched down in front of him. "You okay?" Carson nodded, voice tiny. "You saved me." Liam shook his head. "They did." Carson looked at him again, studying his face. "No, you came for me first." Liam froze for a second, throat tightening. This time, he didn't fight the emotion. "Yeah," he whispered. "Someone once told me, nobody deserves to be alone." Carson nodded and wiped his nose with his sleeve. Liam stood and turned to the president, who was watching the exchange without expression. "What now?" Liam asked. The president jerked his head toward the tunnel exit. "Now we go topside, and hope nobody gets in our way." A problem waiting above. They reached the ladder leading up into daylight. But just as the first biker started to climb, the sound hit them. Engines, car doors, radios, uniforms. Someone whispered, "Oh hell." Another biker grunted. "Looks like Morrow called the cops before we caught him." The president's jaw clenched. Up above, muffled voices drifted down. Perimeter secure. Guns ready. Awaiting order. This wasn't a greeting party. This was a standoff waiting to happen. Liam's heart thudded. "What do we do?" The president rubbed a hand down his beard, thinking fast. "We go up slow. No sudden movements. And no one swears at them unless I say so." Hatchet snorted. "Well, that's going to be tough." They surface. One by one, the angels climbed the ladder and emerged into the field above the tunnel. Liam came up right behind the president, and the moment his head cleared the surface, he froze, because standing in front of them were 12 squad cars, dozens of armed officers, SWAT vests, spotlights, cameras, reporters. And right at the front, the mayor, the same mayor who had been on the news 2 nights ago promising to deal with the biker problem once and for all. Liam whispered under his breath, "Oh, this is bad." The president stepped forward, arms crossed. The mayor smiled like a man posing for a headline. Well, well, he said smugly. The Hells Angels crawling out of a hole. How fitting. Hatchet muttered. Say the word, boss. I'll put him back in one. The president ignored him and looked the mayor dead in the eye. We just rescued a kidnapped kid. The mayor didn't even blink. Is that your story? It's the truth. The mayor turned to the cameras. And this, he shouted, pointing dramatically, is exactly why this town needs stronger police leadership. Criminals acting like heroes while the real justice system is undermined. Gasps. Whispers. Flashes. Liam stared, stunned. He had known corruption was bad, but he hadn't expected someone to flip the script this fast. Carson peeked up from behind a biker, small and scared. Liam whispered, "They're trying to bury the truth." The president nodded once. "We're not letting that happen." He stepped forward, tilted his head slightly, and said cold and quiet, "Mayor, you picked the wrong day to lie." The mayor stood front and center, chin lifted, chest puffed, every camera pointed at him. To him, this wasn't a crime scene. It was a stage, one he intended to own. But the president wasn't backing down. Not tonight. Not after what they'd just dragged a child out of hell to prevent. He stepped toward the mayor, slow, steady, boots grinding gravel. A police captain instinctively moved between them, hand hovering over his holster. The president didn't even blink. "Relax," he said calmly. "If I wanted him hurt, I would have sent somebody else." Murmurs rippled through the officers. The mayor's smile twitched for a moment. Just a moment. But Liam saw it. A crack in the armor. Cameras rolling. Reporters leaned in, microphones thrust forward, the red recording lights glowing like bloodshot eyes. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Mayor, did the Hells Angels interfere in an active investigation?" The mayor seized the moment. "Yes," he said, projecting loud enough for every mic to catch it. "These criminals took matters into their own hands and endangered an ongoing police operation." Liam stared. He felt a burning, choking disbelief rise in his chest. Interfered? Endangered? They'd saved a child while the mayor's own departments were still drawing up perimeter plans. The president tilted his head. "You missing something," he growled. The mayor didn't turn. He didn't need to. He had cameras, power, officers at his back. Or so he thought. Liam raises his voice. Before the president could answer, Liam stepped forward. He didn't plan it. He didn't rehearse it. He just couldn't stay quiet anymore. "He's lying." Every camera swung toward him. The mayor's smile froze. "Excuse me," he said sharply. Liam took another step, adrenaline shoving his fear down into his shoes. "We found the kid first, not the police. And if we hadn't gone in there, he'd still be tied up in a tunnel with a knife to his throat." A reporter snapped, "You have proof of that?" Liam didn't answer, because another voice did. A tiny one. Carson stepped out from behind Hatchet, eyes red from crying, but his voice clear. "They saved me." Gasps rippled across the press line. One reporter lowered her mic and whispered, "Oh my God." The mayor paled for the briefest fraction of a second, but then reassembled his mask. "Well," he said loudly, "children can be easily frightened and confused. His statement isn't reliable." Hatchet's knuckles popped loudly. "He just called the kid a liar," one biker muttered. Another answered, "That's brave. Stupid, but brave." The president lifted a hand, a silent command to hold. "Not yet. The mayor goes too far." The mayor stepped closer to Liam, staring down his nose at him. "You're homeless," he sneered quietly. "No family. No witnesses. No one will believe your version." That did it. The temperature in the air changed. The angels weren't just angry now. They were dangerous. One biker whispered, "He doesn't get to talk to the kid like that." Another, "Boss, say the word." Still, the president didn't move. Liam didn't back down either. He looked the mayor dead in the eyes. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't have a family." Then he glanced back at the wall of bikers behind him. "But I'm not alone. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again." The mayor makes a fatal mistake. The mayor waved at the police captain. "Arrest them." A few officers hesitated. Not out of fear, but confusion. Even they hadn't expected that order. One officer finally spoke. "On what charge, sir?" The mayor snapped. "Interference. Vigilantism. Take them into custody." The captain swallowed. If they moved on the angels here, it could turn into a riot. Then he said the one sentence that froze everything. "Sir, what about the kidnapper?" Silence. No reporters. No shouts. Just the wind across the grass. The mayor blinked. "The kidnapper?" The captain pointed to the two officers dragging Morrow up from the tunnel, hands zip-tied behind him, face bruised and swollen. "We need to book him." The mayor looked at the cameras. He couldn't praise the angels. Not politically. Not publicly. So he tried to play both sides. He spread his hands and shouted, "Book them all. We'll sort it out downtown." That was it. The president finally spoke. "You're making a big mistake." The mayor grinned. "No, I'm taking my town back." The president leaned in, voice low and level. "No, you're going to lose it." The standoff begins. Weapons weren't drawn, but hands hovered. Police on one side, Hell's Angels on the other. Two forces on the edge of ignition. And right in the middle, a homeless boy, a terrified rescued child, a mayor trying to rewrite reality, and cameras catching all of it. A live story, about to explode. The president cracked his neck casually. "Mayor." His voice was calm. Too calm. "I don't need the streets to prove you wrong." He tapped two fingers on the top of his vest. "I just need the truth." The mayor laughed, dripping arrogance. "And who's going to see it?" Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, something simple, something the mayor didn't expect. A phone. Recording. This entire time. Liam raised his eyebrows slightly. "Everyone." Flash. 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 Reporters exploded with questions. The mayor's face drained of color. And for the first time, he looked afraid. Liam held the phone up, screen still recording, its red timer flashing like a warning beacon. Reporters zoomed in immediately, cameras locking onto the tiny device as if it were a weapon. Because in a way, it was. The mayor sputtered for a second, mouth opening but unable to form a defense. He hadn't expected the kid to be recording. He had assumed, wrongly, that a homeless kid didn't have power. He miscalculated. Badly. The president folded his arms. "You want to talk about who endangered who?" he growled. "Let the city hear how you tried to arrest the men who saved a child." The mayor snapped. "He's trespassing. That video is not legal evidence." A reporter shouted back. "Actually, Mayor, public recordings are legal in this state." Another yelled, "Are you trying to suppress evidence of a child rescue?" Microphones thrust forward again. Camera shutters exploded like gunfire. The mayor looked around, suddenly surrounded not by police, but by the press. Hungry, predatory, sensing blood. The mayor tries to flip the script again. He raised his hands and shouted over the noise. "Everyone, calm down. This is being taken out of context." The reporters kept firing. "How long have you known about the tunnels? Why wasn't an Amber Alert issued? Why did bikers reach the kidnapped child before police?" Each question was a sword, cutting deeper than the last. The mayor turned toward the police captain, desperate. "Arrest them. That's an order." The captain didn't move. Instead, he glanced down at Carson. Still trembling, still red-eyed, still clutching his cut ropes in tiny hands. The captain exhaled through his nose. then said the words that changed the direction of the night. "Sir, I'm not arresting the men who rescued a child while our department was securing a parking lot." Gas shot through the press line. The mayor froze. "You're refusing a direct order?" The captain squared his shoulders. "Sir, I'm following the law." And the other officers, slowly, one by one, shifted their stance. Not aggressive, but neutral. They were no longer pointing at the bikers. They were waiting to see what came next. The mayor panics. The mayor's carefully rehearsed political mask shattered. He pointed at Liam and shouted. He manipulated the situation. He's lying. Liam didn't have to answer. Carson stepped forward. Just one tiny boy, speaking in front of dozens of cameras. He saved me. Nothing could cut deeper than that. The press fell silent. Even the mayor went still. Carson took a shaky breath. "Mr. Mayor." I screamed and screamed. Nobody came. Not until they did. Tears started rolling again, but he kept talking. "They found me. They cut me loose. They got me away." He swallowed. "You weren't there." The wind seemed to stop moving. Even the angels shifted quietly, some clearing their throats, others staring away so they didn't show emotion on camera. Hatchet muttered under his breath. "Kids got more backbone than half this field." The mayor's last card. The mayor sucked in a breath and tried one final tactic. "If you don't arrest them, then I will." He stepped toward the president and reached to grab his vest. He never should have done that, because the president didn't even touch him. He just leaned in and whispered low enough that only the nearby cameras caught it. Touching a biker without consent is assault. The mayor froze, and every reporter on the line, every single one, caught the mayor's hand halfway to the president's vest. A perfect screenshot, a perfect headline, a perfect scandal. The mayor jerked his hand back like he'd touched a stove. But it was already too late. The court of public opinion had seen enough. The president turns the tables. The president finally addressed the cameras himself. He spoke calmly, plainly, not a politician, not a rehearsed performer, just a man telling the truth. "We're not heroes," he said. "We're not saints. We're bikers." But when a kid was in danger, he looked at Carson. "We didn't wait for paperwork." Reporters scribbled furiously. The president nodded toward the mayor. "Some people wait for perfect lighting before they act. Some people only move when a camera turns on." A few reporters almost choked trying not to laugh. "And some men," the president finished, "move because kids don't have time to wait." Silence. Then, one reporter started clapping. Then another. And another. And within seconds, the press line was applauding. Not the mayor, not the institution, the rescuers, the angels. The mayor turned beet red. He whispered, teeth clenched, "You'll regret this." The president smirked. "That's tomorrow's problem." He nodded toward the bikers holding Morrow. "Take him in." One officer stepped forward, no hesitation this time, and took custody of the kidnapper. Not the angels, not Liam, not the press, just the criminal. The mayor watched his entire narrative collapse. Right in front of him. A quiet moment in the storm. Liam finally exhaled. His legs felt weak. His heart hammered from the adrenaline. The president walked up beside him and gave a small nod. "Nice work." Liam swallowed. "You're not mad I recorded?" The president stared at him, then said, simply, "I'm glad someone did." Hatchet slapped Liam on the back so hard, he almost folded in half. "Kid just dropped a nuke on live television." Another biker laughed. "If the mayor doesn't quit tonight, he'll at least need a new speechwriter." Liam allowed himself a tiny smile. Because for once, he didn't feel small. He didn't feel powerless. He felt like someone who mattered. But the night isn't over. As the bikers started walking, the president pulled Liam aside. "Be ready." Liam frowned. "For what?" The president looked at the swarm of reporters still filming. "At least 2 people got embarrassed tonight." He pointed at the mayor. "And men like him don't get even." He stared toward the darkness. They get revenge. Liam's smile faded. The president put a heavy hand on his shoulder. Stay sharp, because this fight is just starting. The night should have ended with celebration. Carson was safe. The kidnapper was in custody. The truth was recorded for the world to see. But instead, there was a weight in the air, a tension nobody could shake. Because the president was right. Men like the mayor didn't lose quietly. They didn't lick their wounds and walk away. They went home, poured a drink, stared into a mirror, and plotted. And the angels knew it. So as the convoy of bikes rumbled away from the field, police cars peeling off in opposite directions, Liam felt the unease in every engine vibration beneath him. Not fear, not regret, just awareness. They had crossed a line, and the other side wasn't going to pretend it hadn't happened. A late-night celebration. The angels didn't head home. They roared straight to the clubhouse. Neon lights shining off chrome tanks. Music rumbling through the ground. Doors swinging open as prospect members and old-timers leaned out. You get him? Kid okay. What happened? And the story spread through the building like electricity. Kid rescued. Mayor tried to arrest everyone. The homeless kid recorded it. Reporters ate the mayor alive. A cheer went up that nearly shook the walls. Liam found himself pulled inside, clapped on the back, handed waters he hadn't asked for, half-hugged by men with arms the size of tree trunks. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. Being seen, being recognized, being valued. It was overwhelming. Hatchet dropped onto a bar stool beside him. You good, kid? Liam nodded, still processing. I didn't think anyone would listen to me. Not on camera. Hatchet chuckled. You think any of those reporters would have dared ignore a kid who just crawled out of a kidnapping rescue? You had them by the throat. Liam smiled awkwardly. It didn't feel real yet. Maybe tomorrow it would. Carson's moment. Across the room, Carson sat at a big booth, surrounded by bikers twice the size of his nightmares. Yet he wasn't scared. He was smiling, eating fries, drinking soda like it was the finest vintage on earth. One biker handed him his patched leather vest. Carson slipped it on. It practically swallowed him whole. Every biker in a 10-foot radius melted instantly. Brothers in black leather, softening because of one kid who had been through too much in one night. Liam watched it all, felt something twist inside. Not jealousy, not sadness, something smaller, something older, a memory of sleep on benches, food from dumpsters, no one kneeling down to say, "You're safe. You're with us now." He blinked and let the thought go. Tonight wasn't about him. It was about a kid who got saved before his world broke. The president speaks. The room abruptly quieted as the president stepped up on a small wooden stage near the bar. No microphone, no fanfare. He didn't need either. Men who had seen prison, war, and worse leaned in, falling silent as he spoke. Tonight, 2 kids were saved, he began. One walked out of that tunnel because of us. He pointed toward Carson. Another walked out because he decided to stand his ground. Every biker turned toward Liam. His face flushed. I'm not good with speeches, the president continued. But I'll tell you this, tonight wasn't a win for us. Everyone frowned. The president explained. It was a warning. We embarrassed a man who has money, power, and no conscience. Hatchet muttered. Mayor's probably throwing furniture right now. A few chuckles broke the tension. But understand this, the president went on. Tomorrow, he'll want retribution. Not justice. Not accountability. His voice hardened. Revenge. A quiet settled over the room again. Not fear. Preparation. These were men who lived their lives expecting storms. They didn't run from them. They tuned their engines. The police captain arrives. The rumble of another engine outside cut through the atmosphere. Conversation stopped. Hands instinctively drifted near holsters, pockets, belts. The door opened. A moment of tension, then relief. It wasn't SWAT. It wasn't lawyers. It was the police captain. Still in uniform. Still in duty boots. But noticeably alone. The clubhouse parted for him. He walked straight to the president, paused, then extended his hand. The president took it. The captain swallowed. I can't stay long. If City Hall finds out I'm here, I'll be done by morning. Hatchet shrugged. We'll find you a security job. The captain almost smiled. There's something you need to know. The room leaned in. The mayor already called a private meeting with the city council. Your names came up. So did Liam's. Liam stiffened. Mine. The captain nodded. He wants to discredit you. Paint you as unstable, dangerous, part of the gang. He's hiring a PR firm to bury the truth under headlines about outlaw biker interference. Hatchet rolled his eyes. Man just watched the internet turn on him and still thinks he can fight it with press releases. But the captain wasn't done. He also sent someone to Morrow's cell. The room went dead silent. Liam's stomach dropped. Someone, he whispered. The captain nodded again. 2 suits. No badges. They met with him for 10 minutes. Why? Liam asked. The captain hesitated, then answered. To change the narrative. The president's jaw clenched. They're going to try to flip him, make him claim we assaulted him or forced a false confession. Bingo, the captain said. If that happens, Carson becomes a confused child manipulated by bikers. The mayor becomes the champion of the law again. A biker slammed his fist on a table. That bastard kidnapped a kid. And nobody saw it except you. The captain replied quietly. No body cams. No squad footage. No police presence. Liam felt sick. Everything they did, everything they risked, could be turned upside down in a single press release. The president didn't shout. He didn't swear. He looked around the room slowly and said one sentence. Then we need proof. Liam's new role. Hatchet nudged Liam. Kid, looks like you're up again. Liam blinked. Me? What can I do? The captain answered before the president could. You have the one thing the mayor can't control. Liam frowned. What's that? The captain pointed at him. Your story. Liam went quiet. You uploaded that recording online? Liam nodded. Well, by sunrise, the city will either be standing behind you or trying to destroy you. Hatchet grinned. Either way, real biker move. A ripple of laughter eased the tension again. But Liam didn't laugh. He knew this wasn't a joke. He finally had something to lose. The president placed a hand on his shoulder. Get some rest. Tomorrow we fight differently. Liam nodded. He turned toward a small side room where someone had already set up blankets and a pillow for him. He stopped in the doorway and looked back. Dozens of men, dangerous, loud, hard-edged, watched him without mockery, without annoyance, but with respect. He swallowed, voice soft. Good night. Hatchet called out. Hey kid. Liam turned. Hatchet lifted a can of soda. Get some sleep. Mayor's about to give us the fight of the century. Liam managed a tired smile. I'll be ready. But outside the clubhouse, an engine idled across the street. Lights off. Windows up. A figure inside sat with phone in hand, snapping blurry photos through a cracked window. Of bikes. Of patches. Of faces. Of Liam. Another shot. Another angle. Another digital bullet loaded for tomorrow's headlines. The phone screen lit up with a message. Got everything. Sending now. The figure hit upload, shifted the car into drive, and disappeared into the night. Liam didn't sleep long. He woke up before sunrise. Heart pounding, mind racing. He washed his face in the tiny clubhouse bathroom, dried it with a rough towel, and stared at his reflection. Just a homeless kid. But today, the city would decide if he was the hero who saved a child, or a criminal in league with bikers. He stepped out into the main room. Most of the angels were already awake. Coffee steaming in huge metal jugs. Maps on tables. Phones buzzing. Hatchet waved him over. Morning, kid. You're trending. Liam blinked. What? Hatchet slid a tablet across the table. There it was. Hashtag stand with Liam. Hashtag Hell's Angels save a child. Hashtag where was the mayor? Video clips from reporters were everywhere. Some were praising his bravery. Others were asking, did a child rescue rely on outlaws because the mayor mishandled the case? Liam's hand shook. The world was watching. The first counterattack. But then, a headline appeared. A big one. Bold letters. Front page of a major local news site. Kidnapper claims biker club assaulted him. Says kids were never in danger. Liam went pale. Hatchet slammed his fist on the table. That didn't take long. Liam read the article. Statements from the suspect's lawyer. Paid for by someone with money, obviously. Claims that Carson was with a family friend. The Hells Angels stormed in violently. Liam fabricated the story under coaching. Disgusting lies, but powerful ones. Within minutes, social media was divided. People arguing online. Some headlines defending Carson. Others labeling the Angels criminals. The president stepped in, calm as ever. This is exactly what we expected. He looked at Liam. Time for the other plan. The press conference. The Angels didn't ride out mob style. Only 3 went. The president, Hatchet, Liam. They rode in a black pickup instead of bikes. No intimidation. No flash. Just professionalism. Downtown, reporters were already setting up on courthouse steps, ready for the mayor's morning press statement. But the president led Liam to a different podium across the plaza. No press permission. No city invitation. Just raw truth and cameras waiting for a better story. A reporter recognized Liam. There he is. The boy who filmed the mayor. Suddenly, mics, cameras, questions firing like bullets. Kid, did the mayor really try to arrest you? Were the Angels threatening the police? Did the kidnapper actually panic and flee? The president raised a hand. Silence fell. He stepped aside and whispered, Liam, tell them. Not as a witness. Liam swallowed. As the victim. Liam nodded, stepped up, and began. Liam's speech. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. My name is Liam. I don't have a house. I sleep wherever I can. No one listens to kids like me. That alone froze reporters mid-type. But last night, Carson trusted me, and that means something. He told them everything. The crying girl in the field. The kidnapper grabbing her. The chase into the storm drain. Seeing Carson trapped. Filming the mayor trying to arrest the wrong people. And most importantly, he never glorified himself. He didn't act like a hero. He just told the truth. My recording wasn't meant to embarrass anyone. It was meant to save 2 kids because the adults with power weren't listening. Dozens of cameras caught every word. Reporters typed furiously. Even the police escort outside listened in silence. Liam finished with, and if the mayor thinks he can destroy me just so he doesn't look bad, he can try? I've been ignored my whole life. But not today. The plaza erupted. Applause from people on the street. Reporters shouting follow-up questions. Phones across the country buzzing with new headlines. Hatchet leaned over. That, my boy, is how legends start. The mayor's reaction. Across the street. Inside City Hall. A TV was playing the speech. The mayor watched, gripping the edge of his desk hard enough to turn his knuckles white. This kid is ruining everything. An advisor stepped in. Sir, public sympathy is siding heavily with him. Of course it is, the mayor snapped. He's young, homeless, fragile. He's perfect for social media. He whipped around. Get me something. Anything. I need leverage. The advisor swallowed. We might have something. He slid a folder onto the desk. Photos. Blurry. Taken last night. Through a windshield. Angels. Motorcycles. Clubhouse. And Liam. Walking inside. The advisor tapped the photos. If we spin these right, we paint him as groomed by criminal adults. Manipulated. Not credible. The mayor smirked. Good. Send it to the newsroom. The bomb drops online. 5 minutes later. Every news alert chimed at once. Breaking. Photos show Liam entering biker clubhouse after incident. Twitter exploded. Half the people said, he was safe with the guys who saved the child. The other half, he's being manipulated. Even Liam's name trending wasn't entirely positive anymore. Hatchet read the update and muttered, they're throwing the kid under the bus. The president didn't flinch. He placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. Then we give them something they can't spin. Liam frowned. What's that? The president nodded toward the courthouse doors. Carson. Carson takes the stand. Carson wasn't forced to speak. He insisted. His mother sat beside him, terrified but proud. A small microphone was adjusted. Carson took a deep breath. And the boy they all thought was too traumatized looked toward the cameras and said, I want to tell what happened. The man grabbed me. I was scared. Liam saved me. Silence. Pins dropping would have echoed. Carson continued. He held the door so I could get out. The bikers helped. They didn't hurt me. They didn't hurt the man. I would have been gone if not for them. His voice wavered. But he didn't stop. I don't care what the mayor says. I know who saved my life. And it wasn't him. Behind the podium, the president whispered to Hatchet. Well, there goes the last piece of the mayor's story. Hatchet grinned. Kid's a natural. Cut to City Hall meltdown. Inside his office, the mayor saw the broadcast. Carson's testimony. The clean, unshakable truth. From the one witness no PR firm could discredit. The mayor sank into his chair. This is spiraling. His advisor cleared his throat. Sir, there's talk of a city ethics investigation. Maybe resignation inquiries. The mayor stared blankly at the screen. He wasn't just losing a narrative anymore. He was losing his future. The part ends. With one knock. Back outside. As Carson's press appearance ended, another police officer approached the Angels. A stern-looking woman in uniform. She didn't greet the president, or Hatchet, or Liam. She simply asked, "Which of you recorded the mayor last night?" Liam slowly raised his hand. "That was me." She handed him a legal envelope. "For you." Liam opened it. Inside, a formal document stamped with the city seal. Not a lawsuit, not a summons, not a threat, but notice of intent to investigate alleged misconduct, mayor's office. The officer gave a thin smile. You didn't just expose a kidnapper, son. You may have triggered a political takedown. And with that, she walked away. Hatchet stared after her. Okay, didn't see that coming. The president smiled slightly. The city isn't blind after all. Liam held the envelope against his chest. Relief, fear, gratitude, all tangled together. He whispered, "What happens now?" The president looked toward City Hall. "Now we wait for the mayor to make his next desperate move." Liam didn't plan to become a symbol. He didn't plan to change anything. He just wanted to save a kid. But the world doesn't care what you intend, only what you do. And what he did traveled farther than he could ever imagine. A week later, the city was different. Not dramatically, not overnight, but noticeably. People held conversations at coffee shops. Mothers discussed safety measures. Men on lunch break talked about corruption at City Hall. Liam walked through it all, hood pulled up, backpack over his shoulder, still not used to being recognized. He passed a bus stop. Two teenagers looked at him, eyes widening. "Dude, that's him." Liam pretended he didn't hear. But then, one of them stood up. "Hey, we saw what you did." "Respect, man." Liam froze. Not mockery, not pity. Respect. He nodded, awkwardly. Thanks." He kept walking, but something in his chest felt warm. Strange. New. The city reacts. In the courthouse. The investigation into the mayor was well underway. Whistleblowers stepped forward. Emails emerged. Phone calls leaked. Turns out, the kidnapping wasn't connected to the mayor, but the cover-up attempt absolutely was. The newspaper headline read, "City government misused authority. Child's life made second priority." A direct slap to the mayor. He gave a public statement. Face stiff. Voice controlled. "Mistakes were made. I take full responsibility." But everyone knew. He was only sorry he got caught. Pressure mounted from every angle. Council members. Public forums. Parents. Police officers. Even business owners who feared reputation blowback. Within days, he resigned. Not fired. Not arrested. But forced out by public confidence lost. Liam read the news on Hatchet's phone. He didn't cheer. He didn't smirk. He just stared down at the screen and whispered, "I didn't mean for it to go that far." Hatchet nodded. "I know." Then he leaned down. But sometimes the truth isn't gentle. It does what soft voices can't. A letter. 2 days after the resignation, Liam received a message from the courthouse, stamped with official lettering. He assumed it was bad news. A summons. A demand. A correction. something stressful. But inside was a handwritten note. From the judge. Short, careful, elegant script. Not many adults stand up the way you did. Change rarely comes from the top. It comes from those who refuse to stay quiet. Liam sat on the clubhouse couch staring at the card for a long time. A tear fell before he even realized it. He wiped his face quickly. Hatchet pretended not to notice. Good bikers know when not to pry. Carson's recovery. Carson had nightmares for the first few days. Waking up crying, shaking, calling out for his mom. But having someone to talk to helped. Specifically, Liam. They sat together on the back steps of Carson's apartment nearly every afternoon. Carson spoke quietly. What if it happens again? Liam looked out over the parking lot, thinking, it won't. And if something ever tries to, you'll be ready. Carson swallowed. How did you get brave? Liam chuckled softly. I didn't. I was terrified. Carson blinked. You were. Oh yeah. Courage isn't the absence of fear. He sat up a little straighter. It's doing the right thing while fear is screaming in your ear. Carson nodded slowly, and for the first time in days, smiled. Unexpected news. One evening, a man in a city windbreaker showed up at the clubhouse. The angels tensed, but he raised both hands calmly. Relax, I'm not here on official business. Hatchet crossed his arms. Then what are you here for? The man looked at Liam. We heard you spoke at the courthouse. The counsel was impressed, and he pulled a small envelope from his coat pocket, handed it over. Liam opened it. Inside was a formal letter. We'd like to offer you a scholarship to the City Youth Development Program. Housing included. Liam just stared. Housing. A bed. A stable place to stay. Something he hadn't had in a long time. Hatchet grinned. Well, I'll be damned. The president clapped a heavy, approving hand on Liam's shoulder. You earned that. Liam didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He settled for something in between. I don't know what to say. The council rep smiled. Just keep being the kid who did the right thing when it mattered. The angels offer. When the city official left, the clubhouse went quiet. The president turned to Liam. You know, some of us patched in because we had nowhere to go. Some because it was the only place we felt seen. Liam looked up. But you? The president smiled gently. You can get out. And that's good. Hatchet snorted. Doesn't mean you won't visit. Liam grinned weakly. I'll come back. Duh. Hatchet nodded with satisfaction. Good. Would have hated to send search parties. The president stepped closer and placed a small item in Liam's palm. Cold metal. Liam looked down. A single brass pin, engraved with the club initials. Hatchet rubbed the back of his neck. It's not membership, but it's respect. The president finished. And respect lasts longer. Liam closed his fingers around the pin. Tight. Meaningful. His first real bed in months. 2 days later, Liam stepped into the student housing he'd been assigned. Nothing fancy. Just a door that locked. A clean mattress. A desk. A window. A future. He set his small backpack on the floor. He sat on the bed. It didn't shake. Didn't creak. Didn't smell like rain, mildew, or alley concrete. He lay back and looked up at the ceiling. He whispered, I made it. And for the first time in a long time, sleep came without fear. Carson's message. That night, his phone buzzed. A text. From Carson. Just one sentence. Thank you for saving me. Liam typed back. You saved me too. Because it was true. If not for Carson, Liam would still be invisible. The final ride. A month later, on a sunny Saturday morning, Liam walked outside and froze. An entire line of bikes sat waiting in the street. Chrome shining. Engines off. The angels standing beside them. Hatchet shouted, You moving into your new life without saying goodbye? Unacceptable. Liam laughed and jogged over. The president handed him a helmet. You don't have to wear colors to ride with us. Liam strapped it on. Hatchet swung onto his bike. Where we headed? Liam shrugged. I don't know. The president grinned. Then we'll just ride. Engines roared to life. Neighbors peeked out windows. People on the sidewalk watched in awe. A full biker escort. For a kid who used to sleep under stairs. Liam climbed onto the back of Hatchet's bike. The roar of engines filled the air as they pulled away. Slow at first, then faster, like moving towards something bigger than fear, bigger than pain, bigger than the past. Because Liam didn't just save a child. He proved something the whole city needed to remember. You don't need power to matter. Just a moment of courage. In the exact second the world needs it.